Hello and welcome to Wednesday's Marksman Daily. In this video, we're going to break down a game from one of our Challenger AD carries as they play Caitlyn in a Platinum game. In Monday's video, we talked about playing Caitlyn when you have a big lane advantage. In this game, Caitlyn has a Karma support against Varus and Fiddlesticks. While she has a slight range advantage over Varus, Fiddle has a range advantage over Karma, making this matchup about equal. In even matchups like this, you want to emphasize your strengths while shoring up what weaknesses you can. Here, Caitlyn wants to use her range advantage against Varus while trying to avoid too much harassment from Fiddlesticks. The overarching goal we'll be showing you in this daily will be to put the enemy AD carry behind. We'll be showing you how to make them vulnerable to being abused by your jungler while still at the same time keeping yourself gank proof. We'll be breaking down levels 1 through 3 where we'll be looking to complete these 3 missions. We want to utilize our range advantage, punish the enemy AD carry on low minions, and freeze near our turret. With that being said, let's hop into the game. Caitlyn was with Karma waiting around at the blue buff. After seeing that Rammus was going to start top, she heads down to bot lane to go for something a little bit cheesy. This is the type of move that you can't exactly plan for or prepare for, but is something that you can get value out of when the conditions are right. At this point, there's a risk of the enemy bot lane being in this brush, especially since Caitlyn didn't get here immediately. Because of that, she checks with an ability on the first brush and uses her ward for the second. She's now in a great position with 3 options to choose from. She could step in front of the minions and drag them down to the brush to guarantee a freeze. She could also stay in here until Varus and Fiddlesticks come and then get potshots on them from the brush. Or she could immediately hit the wave in order to get a push going. If you were to put yourself in Caitlyn's shoes, which of these 3 strategies do you think is best here? Would you freeze, harass, or push? Now, before we go further, don't worry if option 1 didn't make a lot of sense. Freezing is very complex, and we'll be tackling it in a future daily. With that being said, Caitlyn chose to wait in the brush and get potshots on Varus and Fiddlesticks. Doing this correctly will support her mission of using her range advantage. Let's see how it pans out. This gave her an awesome health advantage, but let's rewind and think about it. First, it's important for you to understand that you won't get these results in every matchup. The reason this play is good here is because of 2 things, abilities and range. Caitlyn and Karma have abilities that they can cast from the rush and guarantee hits on. Caitlyn also has a range advantage over Varus, which will let her get the first hit off no matter what. Other champions that would be able to do this similarly well to Caitlyn are Sivir, Ashe, and Ezreal. If she had been playing a different AD carry with a weak level 1 and no ability to cast from Fog like Twitch, Tristana, or Vayne, she wouldn't want to fight this. The same goes if she had a weak level 1 melee support like Alistar, Leona, or Rakan. In Monday's daily, we saw the Twitch fall behind doing this exact same strategy and losing for this exact same reason. The second thing that comes into play here is execution. Caitlyn wants to avoid taking too much damage from minions and also not overextending into their duo lane. This is about chunking an enemy laner, not trying to kill them. Even though Varus counterplayed this well by hugging the wall, he took such a bad trade because his support wasn't here with him. With that being said, let's hop back into the game. Caitlyn is up a good amount of health on Varus, and her goal now is to try and extend that lead. She's going to do that by punishing him whenever he goes for minions. She sees this low blue minion and wants to deny it. She could have waited a second on this Q, but the idea still stands. When there's a low minion, Varus is going to want to kill it. Either he'll take harass to get it, take a trade and lose it, or give it up completely. All of these are good scenarios for Caitlyn. Varus ends up stepping up to the last hit, and she's able to get a free auto off on him. We talk about punishing on the minions a lot, and that won't change, but really pay attention here because we're about to cover an even more advanced version of this tactic. Watch for 2 things here, the way Caitlyn moves and the way Varus moves in response. Do you see the little dance happening? When she moves forward, Varus moves back. When she moves back, Varus moves forward. He's a good enough player that if he's focused, he can constantly do this to avoid her range. Despite this, however, she's still able to hit him with a headshot. Believe it or not, the reason for this is actually backed by neuroscience. Your attention can only be in one place at one time. We can tell he's focused on Caitlyn until something distracts him. In this case, while she's dancing back and forth, she's watching these 2 minions get lower and lower. She knows that he's going to switch his focus from her movements to the minion health as it gets in last hit range because, as an AD carry, he's taught to have perfect CS. The moment Caitlyn thinks he's going to switch his focus onto the minion and off of her movements, she bucks the trend of how she's been moving and steps a bit further up to get her auto attack off. Varus actually meets her auto, which is really well played by him. A worse player would easily take free damage and miss the minion here. However, despite how well Varus played it, he still ends up missing the minion. Now, you might think this seems really hard to do, and if you're thinking that, it's a valid thought. It is pretty difficult. Think of trying it after you're comfortable with punishing on low minions. All you're really adding in is moving back and forth to threaten while you're waiting for a minion to get low. Then, put yourself in the enemy AD carry's shoes and go for the harass at the same moment that you would want to last hit if you were in their position. Fiddle was on point in punishing Caitlyn on her own minion kill, but she still ends up denying both minions from Varus. Here there's a low blue melee minion that Caitlyn can punish on, but there's also a low red caster that she wants to kill. This is important to note because killing the red caster is top priority. After that, she can look to punish on the blue melee. You always want to try to secure your own CS before you go and punish other people. Having more gold is more important than denying gold. Killing the caster ended up delaying her harass by enough time that he was able to dodge. That's ultimately fine because you're not expected to be able to land harass on every minion. However, you always want to try and go for it if the conditions are right. It's always important to respect the level 2 advantage. Even if you're up in health, the extra combat stats and abilities on the other side can be enough to get them right back into it. The third melee minion on the second wave will give both parties level 2, and Caitlyn doesn't want to be on the receiving end of that advantage, so she backs up proactively. Here we come to the third mission in this lane, freezing. Think about what's happened so far. She's traded her health for Varus, denied him on what minions she could, and because of the lack of attention she's giving to pushing, the minion wave has naturally built to push against her. Her response here will be to freeze in front of her turret along this line and then make Varus as uncomfortable as possible. Once the enemy minion wave clashes with her new allied wave, she wants to thin the old wave out. This is because she wants to prevent Varus from utilizing the new big wave to overwhelm her and push to the turret. There's a trend happening here. Varus wants to push, but Caitlyn doesn't let that happen. She's specifically able to do this because she's in an even matchup. We don't recommend this type of freeze if you're in a bad matchup, and there's plenty of better ways to abuse an advantaged matchup. Varus doesn't have any advantage to pressure with, which makes it hard for him to push the wave all of the way to the turret. It helps that Cait has spent the whole lane hitting him whenever he steps too far forward. Even though he's the one that's pushed up, she's actually in complete control. As Fiddle leaves the lane, Caitlyn trades with Varus. This is a great trade because it's at worst a 1v1 where both lose health. The beauty of the freeze is that Caitlyn can't really be ganked by the enemy Cho'Gath. However, if she trades with Varus, he gets lower and more vulnerable to a jungle gank. Even if there's no gank actually coming, he's going to feel really pressured to get this into the turret, which Caitlyn isn't going to let him do. Not much happens here other than more of the same. Caitlyn's keeping the wave in the center, wards the brush to prevent Fiddle from abusing or getting caught off guard by a jungler, and she's looking for trades against Varus whenever there's potential. At this point, she's kept the wave frozen here for an entire minute, with Varus being pretty vulnerable the entire time. She sees Rammus ping that he's on the way, and she just has to act casual. She baits the Fiddlesticks to overcommit with a cute move backwards without being in any real danger, which makes the ensuing kill extremely easy. The core part of this video is now over, but to wrap this up, she hard shoves the wave into the enemy turret, harasses Varus on every minion, and this eventually leads to a repeat gank from Rammus and a dead enemy AD carry. Having ended that story, let's recap what we've gone over. This laning phase was all about adaptation. Caitlyn came into it with a plan, but smartly pivoted when the conditions were right. After seeing her jungler start top, she decided to go for a bot lane brush cheese. Because she wasn't in lane immediately, she checked the brushes with abilities and a ward. From here, she could decide to freeze, push, or go for harass. She had abilities to cast from fog, and she had inherently good range, so she opted for the harass and got a health lead. From here, she wanted to trade with Varus to put him further behind in health and gold. She did this by punishing on every low health minion. An advanced way to punish savvy lane opponents is to dance back and forth until there's a low minion, and then change the trend of how you move to end up getting an auto attack off. She understood that she gave this level advantage to them by focusing on harassment instead of on pushing. At this point, both Varus and Caitlyn were low. The difference is, she's at no risk of getting ganked by the enemy Cho'Gath, while Varus is wide open to a Rammus gank. She freezes for an entire minute, and Rammus eventually comes down. At that point, it's free kill after free kill. It's always important to go into your games with a plan for how you want to play. This will help direct you, and the better the plan you make, the lower the chances are that you'll ever be confused. However, on the other side of that, it's equally important to recognize situations that don't happen every game. Mastering a game plan by the books is excellent, and you'll get very far doing so. But being able to adapt on the fly and capitalize on things that happen once in every 10 games is what separates the good players from the great players.